I guarantee you do not want me to sing, but no, I won't. Good. Thank you very much, President Weiss. Thank you to the trustees, and thank you to the Lafayette class of 2011 for including me in your number and inviting me to be here today. It's, even though I didn't have to work quite as hard as you did for this honorary degree, I like to think that we're all part of the same tribe now. We're all leopards, I guess, right? I also accept your thanks for bringing the sun, because I'm told it didn't work out so well last year. But if it begins to rain, it's not my fault. I'm only taking credit for the good things, because you see, this is commencement day. I love commencements. I love that we're celebrating endings and beginnings. I love that there is a palpable sense of relief in the air. I love that everyone's in a good mood. I love that parents are writing that last check, and they're happy about that. I love the students that finished that last exam, and you're happy about that. The faculty, who love you dearly, I'm sure, are still glad to see the back of you today. Knowing I was coming here today gave me a chance to reflect back on my own commencement years ago. My family moved around a lot. My dad was an itinerant preacher in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, which meant we could be reassigned every single year. And throughout my growing up, that meant that every couple of years we would move. I hated it at the time, but as is probably true of many childhood experiences, I came to appreciate it as I grew older. In each and every case, I had to learn to make new friends, strive for comfort in uncomfortable situations, and survive under the scrutiny of just about everybody, especially those who you could not see watching you. This is the preacher's kid life. Turns out that this came in handy for me as time went on. As a peripatetic preacher's kid, it taught me many of the lessons which I could apply later as a journalist who makes her living making new friends, striving for comfort in front of a lens where practically everyone is watching. Throughout our growing up, my brothers and I spent a lot of our time, our free time, in the library. Now, this may have been because we loved reading, and it may also have been because our parents didn't let us date, but I can't remember which it was. Either way, this is how I imagine I started to value reading and writing. Learning to write turned into learning to speak. And learning to speak turned into learning how to speak up. And speaking up, it turns out, is an essential lesson learned, and one that can be challenging to apply. I've discovered this firsthand many times in my career when I found myself with little choice but to speak up on behalf of a group of young college women, Rutgers basketball players, who had been on the receiving end of a slur by a radio DJ. I had to speak up. I learned how to speak up when moderating national political debates and candidates couldn't or wouldn't answer the question, and the whole world was watching. Still, I spoke up. I learned how to speak up as a journalist whose job it is to speak for others, for folks who have stories that no one ever bothers to tell. I have to speak up, and so do you. But learning to speak up should begin before you get to college and continue long after. Whether you realize it or not, that's what your parents and loved ones taught you that got you into these caps and gowns today. This might be a good time, by the way, for you to thank them for that. I don't hear a lot of enthusiasm. But you must do more than just speak up, and you must do more in the process of this than just say no to things. You also have to say yes to opportunity, to the chance to change the world, to the goals that seem just out of reach. You heard about the book I wrote a couple of years ago about breakthrough political candidates. I discovered as I was reporting and writing that book that they had a lot in common. Most of all, that they said yes when they had the chance, especially when people told them no. They were always told to wait their turn, that they were not something enough, that they would never win. They each said no and then yes, and they broke through. So I want you to break through too. But I want you to be so successful that you will no longer ever again be the first at what you do. And your children will never remember a time when it was unusual to see an African-American president, or a woman as Secretary of State, or a Latino on the Supreme Court. They'll be shocked, we hope, to read it in their history books, and that it took so long. So why should the progress be allowed to end there? That's not what Reaching for the Stars should be all about. It should be about building a platform, not just for yourself, but also constructing a set of steps for those of you who follow behind, which is, of course, easy for me to say since I got to the top of the steps. But here's my advice to you today. Be curious. Know that there are no dumb questions. Learn how to write better than you do already. Challenge authority. And one more thing no one ever told me when I was in college. You cannot necessarily have it all, at least not all at the same time, and not necessarily always in the order that you have in mind. I look into your faces and I see your shiny, hopeful, educated faces, and I know that it is likely only the limits that you impose on yourself that can actually stop you from doing whatever you want. Now, by the way, I know full well this is your last day here, and I am really the last thing standing between you and a really good party. And because I was a baccalaureate, I know how hot it is. So I'm not going to go on for much longer, but I do have some things I want to share with you. If you don't remember anything else that happens today, if you don't remember my name, it's okay. If you don't remember your professor's names, President Wise's name, it's okay. If you are so caught up in the goodbyes and the prospects and the packing that you haven't been exactly able to focus on anything I've said in the last few minutes, just remember this. Leaving Lafayette is about so much more than just getting a degree. Because if all you take away from here today is that piece of sheepskin, that college education, you really will not have been paying attention. Your experience here was only the beginning. You are educated. You are officially members of the elite. But you are not complete until you acknowledge that it is what is in your soul that will determine your success. The options before you are extraordinarily clear. The world outside our body borders now seems like a collection of contradiction, distractions, conflicts that breed hunger and war and malevolence. But my job here today is not to tell you about what you should fear. You can do that pretty well on your own. Job hunting alone ought to take care of that. My job is to assure you of the vast and the rich opportunities that are before you, the joy of living in a vibrant democracy where anyone who is optimistic, hardworking, and informed enough can change and save the world that you live in. So think of me as kind of a magazine cover, the kind you see when you're waiting in the checkout line. It tells you how to lose 50 pounds in 50 days, how to snag a mate, that sort of thing. Except that I'm going to give you the 5 keys to living a good life. Any one of these keys can open a door to a rich and fulfilled one, but first you have to know how to use them. Number 1, you have to know that you are called to a mission. With or without a college degree in hand, we are all called to a mission. We're all here for a reason. It may be to change the world just immediately around us. It may be to change the world in our hometowns or for our families. It may be to fix and understand and explain and investigate. It may be to be a bridge among diverse communities. It may be to educate, like the professors and administrators who are here to see you off today. But whatever you settle on, treat it as a mission, as a life's work, as something that you are indeed called to do. It's a responsibility, if you will, to care about more than just yourself and to affect the lives of those around you. Number 2, your choices are limitless. You have to know that. You are on the cusp of great lives. You can choose to build strong families, raise or help to raise children, support your siblings, pay your parents back, honor your grandparents. Best of all, you can leave the world a better place than you found it. Number 3, and this can be kind of complicated, you should resolve to fix a flawed relationship today. You all know someone you're not speaking to, some relative who's been getting on your nerves, some friend you didn't say goodbye to because you had some sort of disagreement, some professor you had a fight with, some acquaintance or family member who never believed in you, never believed you would even get to where you are today. The key for you today is to step beyond yourself and your resentments and make the first call and try to fix that relationship today. Number 4, resolve to cross a barrier. That barrier may be race or gender or class. It may be disability or achievement or educational attainment or expectation. But use what you know about potential, the potential to rebuild bridges and heal with words, to create new relationships where none existed before. It's our only hope as a nation and as a world. Now, see how easy that is? I'm only asking you to save the world. That's number 5. And please, please stay informed. I know sometimes it seems like we have too much information coming at us online, on our cell phones, just sometimes through the air, and too little insight. Remember though, it is hard to know too much. I know how that works for you. I know how it worked for me when I was in college. More of you watch Comedy Central than watch PBS. I get that. That's okay. Thanks to Jon Stewart and Saturday Night Live, it's become downright entertaining to focus on the silliest aspects of what it takes to run for president and to govern well. College students tell me all the time that it's the only news they watch, Jon Stewart, no matter how fake it may be. But guess what? He watches me. Because in order to get Jon Stewart's jokes, you have to have the information. You need to know the facts to know what you are laughing at. I have a flat spot on the front of my head. It's from banging it against walls, breaking them down, forcing diversity of thought and opinion into newsrooms and onto the air. Whatever else you do with your lives, I hope you get those flat spots too, that you remember to fight those battles. We are counting on you. We're counting on you, the graduates of today, as we never have before. We are counting on you to rise to challenge, to make honorable choices, to take the correct lessons from all of our struggles with war and peace and politics and policy and terrorism and trial, and to know how important it is to apply those learned lessons well. If you've learned all that, if you understand that your learning does not end today, that it only begins, you will have already made us all proud. Families, faculty, graduates, thank you once again for including me in the class of 2011. Fortunately, I'm still learning too, and congratulations to you all.